Welcome everyone. We're getting ready for another webinar with my parents, Ray and Charlene Notgrass, talking about teaching middle school history with confidence. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to type any questions you have in the chat box. We will try to address those as we go through the presentation. We've got a few slides to show, and Mom and Dad have information to share with us. This is John Notgrass. I'm the oldest son in our family, and I'm honored to work with my parents trying to provide useful and valuable resources to help other homeschooling families, and I'm thankful for the training they gave me as a homeschooled student. So, Dad and Mom, I'm going to turn it over to you. Take it away.
Thanks, John, and we're honored to work with you.
Absolutely.
We appreciate your being here and appreciate Titus Anderson behind the scenes as our, whatever your role is.
Our tech guy.
Tech guy, okay. Don't you love a good story? I think we all do. We like to hear stories. Some of the most memorable teachings in Scripture are stories, what we call the parables of Jesus. We like stories because we can identify with them, because they make a point really clearly. And that's what we believe history is. History is stories. And it's when we teach history and we learn history as stories that it really sticks, and we see the point, and we understand why we're studying this and the difference it makes for us to understand it. Let me give you an example. I could tell you that in 1862, Congress passed the Homestead Act, and hundreds of thousands of families moved west to claim land in accordance with the provisions of that law. And if I did, you might well fall asleep. But if I tell you about Laura Ingalls Wilder, and I have you read her stories in the Little House books, then that clicks. That's memorable. You can understand that, and it makes a difference, and you can see, oh, that's how people lived. That's the difference that that law made in people's lives. That's what we're talking about. History is a story. History is our story. I had a college professor, a friend of mine, tell me one time, if you don't know history, you don't know who you are. And middle school students are beginning to find out who they are, what they're grappling with as far as their identity as individuals, as Christians, as Americans. And so understanding that involves learning where we've been. Learning history helps us understand who we are. That's why history is important. That's why it's so important for us to study history and to understand history.
And Ray and I really believe that you can succeed with your middle school student in history. Your children are so blessed because you homeschool them. Thank you for being a homeschooling mama. They already have this huge advantage. They have you, and you can do it. We see what we do at Notgrass History is just providing tools to put in your hands, but you are the key. God put you in this role. He wanted to give your children exactly what they needed, and so He gave them you. I love what Proverbs 6 says about a mother's teaching. My son, observe the commandment of your father, and do not forsake the teaching of your mother. Bind them continually on your heart, tie them around your neck. And if your children do this, and you're providing them with a wonderful opportunity to do this because you're with your children every single day, and you are purposefully teaching them. And that's exactly what God wants you to do. God tells this son in Proverbs 6 that if he will observe the commandment of his father and not forsake the teaching of his mother, if he'll bind them continually on his heart and tie them around his neck, then the slide tells you what the result is. When you walk about, they will guide you. When you sleep, they will watch over you. And when you awake, they will talk to you. When you tell your children history stories, you're giving them a gift for them to take with them for the rest of their lives. I want to encourage you as you live perhaps this middle school year with your student and as you prepare for next year with your middle school student, respect the child that God made. Every person is different. You know that. But sometimes when you're a homeschooling mama, you forget that. And you want to push your child into somebody else's mold. You're scared to death if your child is different from another middle school student you know. But don't forget to lay all of that down and to respect the child God made and be grateful for the child. You have the privilege of watching to see what God is going to do with this unique individual He has created. We don't believe in one-size-fits-all curriculum. We write a flexible curriculum and we trust you with it. Ray?
I'd like to encourage the parents watching this to be confident about teaching your children. You're the parent. You're the adult in this situation. You can do this. I don't mean that you can do this in a drill sergeant way, but in a calm and confident way, trusting in the Lord, trusting in your role with your children. And let me remind you that a positive, pleasant homeschool experience is more likely to happen in the context of a pleasant and not too busy and God-focused family life. Keep your family as your focus, not schoolwork, but your family. School is only part of life, and the key to a successful homeschool experience is integrating that into the context of your whole life.
So the next thing I would like to do is to show you the Notgrass history plan. We've gotten some questions ahead of time before this webinar, and so I worked up this little chart this morning that I hope will help you. We never want Notgrass history to be intimidating. So don't be intimidated by the chart. Let me explain it to you. It's sometimes hard to visualize the big picture, but I hope this will help a little bit. At Notgrass history, we have completed 7 years of a child's 12-year school schedule. So we're still working on it. We've still have 5 more things to complete. We are working on 2 of those. So there are only 3 of the 12 years that we have not actually started on, but we have definitely thought about those. And so I want you to see our plan. Of course, not everybody has to complete this plan. Some people want to take 2 years to do a curriculum. We totally understand that, approve that, appreciate that. That really works for some people. But we would like you to understand what it is that we are aiming for. So if you'll look at the chart over on the left, it says curriculum level. And below that, you see the 3 age categories that we divide what we write into. So we do elementary, and that is for grades 1, 2, 3, or 4. We do middle school, grades 5, 6, 7, or 8, and high school, which is, of course, grades 9 through 12. And our curriculum plan is divided into 2 major parts, America and the world. So our what we have already completed is our American history portion of America. of the America part of our curriculum, and I hope this is making sense. Please ask questions if I'm being confusing. So if you were, let's say that you have a student who is in first grade, then your student, when we finish our plan, would do American history one year, either grade, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And that would be our Star Spangled Story. And then another year between grades 1, 2, 3, and 4, the student would do a course that we're working on right now. I'm very excited about it. It is American geography and civics for the youngest student. Think of it as America Today. The emphasis is to be the 50 states and capitals, but also other parts of this amazing place that God created. But the emphasis is America now, understanding the states and capitals, etc. So we don't even have a title for it yet, but we are writing it at the moment. We just haven't decided what we're going to call it yet. So in first, second, or third, or fourth grade, the student would do our Star Spangled Story one of those years. This, we'll call it America Today right now, one of those years. And then a world history and a world geography. Then in middle school, the student would do those same 4 subjects. They would do American history one year, that's America the Beautiful. They would do Uncle Sam and You, that's civics. They would do From Adam to Us one year, that's world history. And then they would do our world geography when we have that completed. And then in high school, they would do those 4 subjects again. They would do Exploring America one year. One year they would do a half year of Exploring Government and a half year of Exploring Economics. One year they would do Exploring World History, and one year they would do our World Geography, which Ray is working on right now, and is going to be absolutely fabulous. Will really help students understand the world God created and how what He made in the world has helped the world to be the way it is today, especially for people. Is that a good way to describe it, right? Yeah. Our Star Spangled Story introduces students to American history. Each of these curriculum packages covers the same time period, but which is pre-1492 to the present. But it does it, these 3 curriculum packages do it at 3 different levels. Students learn some stories, 3 days per unit in our Star Spangled Story, stories that are very appropriate for a first, second, third, or fourth grader. And then when they're in 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th, they can do America the Beautiful, which will take them to a deeper level and will expand more. And then in high school, the student does Exploring America, which digs very deep and really emphasizes a Christian worldview about American history. So we do that same sort of digging deeper, adding to, and reviewing in each of these 4 major topics: America history and America Today, and then in world history, and the world today. Okay, John, I'm ready for the next one. So for middle school, what we have completed is 3/4 of it. We have America the Beautiful, and it includes a book of 75 lessons for the first semester, a book of 75 lessons for the second semester. Those are divided into 30 units of 5 lessons each. And as we always do with every package, a book of primary sources. In this case, it's letters and newspaper articles and short stories and poems and that sort of primary source. We also have a consumable map book and timeline. We suggest 10 great literature titles, which we assign at the end of the lessons. And then we also offer optional review material, either a student workbook or a lesson review, and parents just choose whichever one they think would work best with their child. I often encourage people to pick the one that they think their child will enjoy the most. So we have America the Beautiful. As our American history, we have From Adam to Us, which is our world history. It is designed exactly the same way as America the Beautiful, with 15 units of 5 lessons each for a total of 75 lessons for the first semester, another book like that for the second semester, a primary source book, a map book and timeline, which are consumable, and then the choice of review material, and again, 10 fabulous books. And our books are from around the world. One is set in Hungary, one in Canada, one in Australia, one in Russia, etc., Korea, just around the world. And then we also offer Uncle Sam and You, which is our civics curriculum, a very exciting course that students really enjoy. And when we say our curriculum is for grades 5, 6, 7, or 8 for middle school, we are saying that if you have a 5th grader and an 8th grader, they can both use this curriculum together in 1 year. It is a 1-year course, but it can be used in a year, 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th. And that's true for all our middle school courses. We work hard with our curriculum to always write from a Christian worldview and with a respect for all people. And I just want quickly to give you some examples of exactly what I mean by that, by reading short passages from our curriculum that will illustrate what I'm talking about. And From Adam to Us, when we do our lesson on Confucius. This is a paragraph from that. This is how the lesson ends. Because Confucius was created in the image of God, just as every person is, he was able to discover some truths that agree with the will of the true eternal God. He was right that encouraging morality and training people to practice morality is good. However, morality alone does not make people new on the inside the way that Christ does. And then we have our Bible verse to end the lesson. Jesus said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. So there's an example from Adam to Us. And then here's another one from America the Beautiful. Early immigrants to America. This is in the very first unit when we are talking about life here before any European settlers came to live here. Early immigrants to America were created in the image of God. Because of this, they were creative and intelligent and creative. They used their God-given abilities to figure out ways to live and work together. These Native Americans created cultures filled with games, music, and art. They held festivals. They loved and cared for their families. Like other humans, these people did right sometimes and wrong sometimes. In some years, tribes lived in peace and traded goods with other tribes. At other times, the tribes fought wars. And this is how that lesson ends. God created the Northwest Coast and California tribes. Those are 2 areas of the country we're emphasizing in this lesson, and decided where and when they should live, as Paul taught the people of Athens. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their habitation. That's from Acts 17:26, and that is the Bible verse for that lesson. And then quickly, just one more example from Civics, because a lot of us realize that history is the story of what God has done and in the world. But listen to this way that we try to teach respect and responsibility in Uncle Sam and You, our civics curriculum for middle school. This lesson that this is from is an explanation of the American economic system that allows a kernel of wheat to be planted in Kansas and for that kernel of wheat to eventually end up in your kitchen where you're making chocolate chip cookies. And the mom in this story's name is Marcia, so you'll understand. Every person is descended from the first man God created. Therefore, we should have love and respect for all people. It takes many people to go from kernel of wheat to cookie. Each of these people has his or her own special set of skills. The step-by-step cooperation of skillful and creative people makes our economy work. The farmer's expertise is to raise and harvest a field of wheat. He depends on manufacturers of farm equipment, a supply of gasoline to run it, the store where he buys his seed wheat, and the workers at his local grain elevator. Scientists test and measure wheat to provide a consistent, predictable product. Trucks, their drivers, and the roads they travel are essential parts of the process at several steps. The skills of millers and the people who design and build cleaning and milling machines are necessary for wheat to become flour. In our story, the flour is King Arthur brand, so we say. Artists design King Arthur flour bags in their advertisements for magazine. Marketers decide where to advertise, and they convince grocery distributors to stock King Arthur flour. Grocery store owners and managers order the flour. Truck drivers bring it to the stores. Stockers take it to the shelf. Marcia, the mother in our story, bought the car she uses for grocery shopping from a local dealer and uses a shopping cart made in an American factory. She and her husband work for small business owners in their town. This provides the income for them to buy their family's groceries. All the ingredients and equipment in Marcia's kitchen came from farms and factories in the United States and other countries. Her children had fun helping make and especially eating the cookies, not realizing they were helped by hundreds of other people. God created the wheat plant, the soil it grows in, the weather that nurtures it, and the intelligent people who know what to do with it. In our middle school curriculum, we combine multiple subjects. Now, some mamas just are looking for history, and they just use the history portion of our curriculum. But some mamas decide this year we're going to center our whole school year around America the Beautiful, or From Adam to Us, or Uncle Sam and You. And they use many of the ideas we have at the ends of the lessons so that they can cover lots of subjects and they don't have to use any other curriculum except a math and a science and perhaps a grammar, because we don't have any specifically grammar assignments, though we do have creative writing and vocabulary and literature. So at the end of a lesson in any of our courses, you will have Bible study assignments some days, creative writing, vocabulary, projects once a week, and art or cooking or drama or something like that. And in our histories, also geography. So moms want to know, how long does it take to do a Notgrass history lesson? And the answer, unfortunately, is that really depends. If you are only doing the history, you can easily finish it in about 30 minutes. But if you decide to make your homeschool really easy for you this year and you want to use this for a variety of subjects and just add math and science and maybe some grammar, then it's going to take you longer because you're using this for your English and for your Bible study, in addition, and maybe for some of your arts and crafts, in addition to history. So then it just depends on how many projects you take. The basic course, half an hour. Then if you decide to use the literature component, then you have to include time for that. Some moms decide to make this a family study, and she sits on the couch and the kids gather around and they look at the pictures and she reads the lessons aloud. Other families find that it works great for their fifth grader, sixth grader. Mom just tells the student what she wants them to accomplish today from the assignments, and the student goes and does it all by himself or herself. One thing that's very important with Notgrass history is to read the introduction. We don't ever have a teacher's manual with our curriculum because you don't need one. It is open and go. We just tell you exactly what to do, but we do really recommend that you read the introduction so that you understand all of the components. And I, for one, would read the introduction before I decide whether this year I'm going to use it only for history or if I'm going to use it for other subjects, because that introduction will really help you to make that decision, I believe. Now, I have the 12-year chart up again because I want to answer some questions that we have gotten ahead of time. And one question is it okay to do part 1 of our first 75 lessons one year and do the part 2 of a curriculum the next year? And the answer to that is, of course. You're the mama and you know what's best and you know the best way to use this curriculum. But the reason I'm putting the chart up is that if you make the decision to take 2 years to do one of our middle school courses, then you won't have time to do all of them. And that's fine. We're not saying you have to do all of them. But we do think one good way to give your children a good foundation in history is to do a 4-year cycle of American history 1 year, world history 1 year, world geography 1 year, and the civics and American geography, America Today. We don't have a good term for all of that, but America Today is probably the best way to describe that 4th year. If you do one a year, you do that 4-year cycle in elementary school, in middle school, and in high school when we get those all written. So I hope that I am explaining that clearly. So yes, it's fine to do it in a year. We do only provide 150 lessons on purpose because a typical school year is 180 days. So we build in 6 whole weeks of wiggle room into our curriculum anyway, but it is still absolutely great to spread it out over 2 years if that's what works best for you, because you're the mama and you know. One thing we were asked is about how to motivate and encourage your new middle school student, and what to do with struggling students. I think that Notgrass history works really well for a wide variety of students, and students of different ages and different strengths and weaknesses. And we would be happy to email you this chart and post it on your website for your planning. We're sorry we don't have it all written yet. We are just trying to do a really, really good, thorough job. And thank you for all of those of you who've been patient with us. If you're starting out with a young child, we're excited that you should be able to use all of our curriculum, but we're still adding to it, and until we do, then that's another good reason that you might want to take one curriculum and spread it out over 2 years. But we want you to know our whole plan, because we don't want you to be disappointed and to realize, oh man, I would have loved to have done X, Y, or Z, but because we took 2 years, now I don't have time. It's not a bad thing either way. It's good either way. We just want you to be informed so you're not disappointed. Motivating and encouraging a new middle school student. I believe one of the best ways to do that is to really not make homeschooling a burden. I really do believe that the way we do the multiple subjects in Notgrass history is a way to keep from overwhelming a child, because if his creative writing and his vocabulary and his literature and his history are all coordinated, it's so much easier to learn it and retain it than if you're doing something completely separate for part of that. But there are good reasons to do completely separate too, because you've found this wonderful English program that you love, and we completely support that and support you in that. But it is, for some students, it's a really good idea to coordinate everything around your history, especially if you have a history lover, because they get to be enjoying what they are doing in their other subjects more, because it is related to something that they are already interested in. We also think that it helps that there are only 150 lessons, because you can slow down if you need to. You can add other methods that you know work really well with your child, whether it's YouTube videos or old black and white movies, or especially field trips. Let me see. Another question we got was about adapting our curriculum for co-ops. Our curriculum is used in many, many co-ops very successfully. There are many ways that you could do that. Of course, it depends on how long you meet and what your purposes are, both how long you meet at a time, how many days a week, how many months, weeks, or whatever. But I think the family projects can be a good co-op activity. I think book reports from the literature is a good idea. I think going deeper into a certain subject area is one way that co-ops can use our curriculum. Ray, do you have any other ideas that you have heard co-ops say they're doing with our curriculum? Because I know a lot of high school co-ops have used our high school also.
Well, I would encourage a co-op teacher to ask the students if they have any questions or if they have any big idea that really jumped out at them over the previous week. I'd hate for the students to just be bursting with an idea or struggling with a question and that be passed over because you had another agenda you were trying to fulfill that week. You really want to help them in coping with, understanding, grasping the material. So I think that's what I would do is to say, what's on your mind? The first few minutes, anybody have something that really jumps out at them? And I think pursuing a particular subject or topic or activity for a week, for that week is a really good idea. And maybe preview for the upcoming week. Okay, students, here's what you're going to be studying over the next week. Here are some things to look for in the lessons. Find out who was president when this happened, and make some other connections so that they will have their mind triggered for what's going to be coming up.
And sometimes a group might get sometimes a better experience on a field trip if you had enough, if you could take your whole co-op class, then maybe the director of the museum would be willing to give you a tour where one individual family they might not do that for. So I think field trips is another option.
Excellent.
Although I also think it's really a great idea if parents can be on that field trip too, because I think students get more out of field trips often if mom or dad are there to gently direct them to be sure they're seeing more than they might see on their own. But also having the parent there might encourage the family to go back again just as a family also.
So let's review. Repetition is one good way to make sure that we learn the material. As I said earlier, we like stories. That's what we do in our middle school curriculum. In From Adam to Us, we tell stories from world history. We introduce your child to some fascinating people and places and events. We tell what daily life was like in various times and places in world history. And we weave Bible history through the story. The Bible is set in specific times and places in real history. And I think you will appreciate the story of the Bible more when you understand its context in history. And I think you will appreciate history, world history, more when you see its connection to Bible history. There's no need to separate those two subjects. In America the Beautiful, we help students appreciate the great story of our country. We've seen heroes and villains, successes and failures. We help them know the lives of Native Americans, the wisdom of the founders, the struggles of ending slavery and ensuring civil rights for all Americans, the great accomplishments like in the 20th century, the space program, and where we are today. And then in Uncle Sam and You, we help students know how our great country works. We teach the great principles, the systems of government we have, many other topics in civics, but we also describe what the fire department does, how a road gets built, how a local festival gets organized, how state parks operate, how local arts programs work, how elections happen. And we give specific examples of each topic. In other words, we tell what it means to be a citizen of the United States. There's a lot of wow in that curriculum that your student will find fascinating, and we hope that that will inspire him or her to contribute something to the country that has given them so much.
I would be happy to talk some more about specific curriculum, but I see that we've been going now for over 35 minutes, and I want to be sure that we answer any questions that have come up during the webinar. So John, have you gotten any questions that we ought to address before we go any farther?
I'm not seeing any questions right now.
Okay.
So I think you're okay if you want to go through the curriculum.
Okay. So we just have lots and lots of detail on our website, but we did think it would be good this afternoon to tell you just a little bit about each of the three curriculum packages that we have completed for this age group. As John is getting the first slide up, let me tell you that when we do the world geography for this age group, we do plan on it being the place that we really cover the traditional topics of geography, but we plan to do it with stories. We just believe that even geography is better learned through a story. The America Today topic that we are currently covering as we're working through our next elementary course is, as I said, about states and capitals, and it's going to be stories about states and capitals and getting to know America. But the main traditional geography we plan to be in our 5th through 8th grade curriculum, and then our high school world geography is really a lot about how human beings have reacted with the world God made, as I said a while ago. America the Beautiful is our one-year American history course for grades 5, 6, 7, or 8. And the part 1, that is for the 75 lessons divided into 15 units of 5 lessons each for the first semester, is America from 1000, which is Leif Erikson, to 1877, which is Reconstruction after the war between the states, the Civil War. And then part 2 is America from the late 1800s to the present time. Our primary source book for this is We the People, and as I said earlier, we have a maps and a timeline, and the package also includes an answer key. And John, I think I probably should tell everybody, we are currently revising this curriculum, and I've been working on that today, as a matter of fact. And so we expect the updated, when I say revision, we're not talking about revisionist history or anything like that. We're talking about updating this because, as I told a mom at the last convention I was at, As a mom, I wouldn't hesitate to use a curriculum that was a little bit older, although I do think the most recent times are very, very important to learn in history. But as a publisher, we have to be up to date. And so this curriculum only includes information up to about 2012, and a lot's happened in the last 7 years. Been a lot of changes in America in those 7 years. So we have got to bring this up to date, and we are working on that right now. And you're going to love it. It's going to be a very exciting revision. We're not going to do away with the things people love about America the Beautiful, but we are going to enhance it, have lots more pictures and all. So this curriculum during a unit of America the Beautiful, the student will be able to do one lesson, which is a story from American history, another lesson, which is daily life from that time period, and another day is a biography of somebody who lived at the time. And the other 2 days, one day is a man-made landmark, say the Statue of Liberty or the Golden Gate Bridge or Mesa Verde, the Pueblo settlement in the Southwest. And then the other day is some amazing place God created that was historically significant at the time period we're studying. With America the Beautiful and with From Adam to Us, the 30 units are in chronological order. So an example of a God's wonder is when we're studying about the invention of the steamboat, our God's wonder is God created the Mississippi River, because obviously the steamboats were traveling on that major thoroughfare, water thoroughfare in America. We study God created the Chesapeake Bay when we study the American Revolution, because the war ended partly because of the geography God created in the Chesapeake Bay. Let me just say quickly that our From Adam to Us is the same pattern, with one day a story, one day a biography, one day some aspect of daily life, one day an amazing man-made landmark, and one day an amazing creation of God. But I see that there are some questions now, so I want to be sure that we cover some of those before some of you might have to leave. So can you tell me the first question, John? Or tell us?
If someone is starting with a 7th grader, which middle school courses would you recommend, in what order?
Well, I would probably choose, it's so hard, and maybe the questioner would be willing to give us a little bit more information. It depends on what you've been doing. If you've been studying world history for years and years and have very little American history behind you, then I think it'd be good to do American history. We're really recommending that people think about doing Uncle Sam and You in 2020, the school year 2020 to 2021, because it's an election year, and we cover especially presidential elections very, very well in Uncle Sam and You. We spend 5 whole units on all the interesting details of presidential elections. So that might be something good for the 8th grade. The only semi-absolute is that I probably would not do From Adam to Us in the 8th grade, because most people choose to do Exploring World History in the 9th grade, and that would be 2 world histories back to back. And even though they are very, very different, your student might enjoy some variety. So I guess my, just quick, without having much detail, I would say either America the Beautiful or From Adam to Us in 7th, and then in 8th, I would do Uncle Sam and You. We really stand by the current version of America the Beautiful. However, if you have a younger student coming up, then I probably would choose From Adam to Us and wait and buy America the Beautiful after it's been updated. But if you're just going to use, if this is your youngest child and you just need a year of American history, then it would be a great choice, but I would buy it soon because we're pretty sure that they're going to go out of print for a short time, maybe a few months in between when we sell the last copy of the current version and the new version is ready, which should be early 2020.
Great. And similarly, if someone did From Adam to Us in 6th grade, does the order matter, America the Beautiful or Uncle Sam and You?
If we had the revision done, I would probably recommend America the Beautiful first and then Uncle Sam and You. But for this mama, it just depends on whether you want to wait for the new version of America the Beautiful. We are so sorry that we're in this situation, but we just are. We just have to make the best decision we can. And as it just turns out, it looks like we're going to have this little period of time where they are out of print. So either way is fine. It is just fine. Just keep in mind that 2020 is an election year and that we are coming out with a new version of America the Beautiful. If you already have America the Beautiful, or you're borrowing it from a friend or something, then I would do it in the 7th grade, and I would do Uncle Sam and You in the 8th, if that's your situation.
Someone has 9th, 8th, 5th, 3rd, 2nd, and kindergarten. Is there a way to put multiple kids into the same course? For example, could you use the high school course as the base, and then use literature, recommended literature from Us, for example, for the younger children? How can you combine multiple ages if they are in different age brackets according to the way we set up our curriculum?
If I were in that situation and I wanted to combine all of those students, then I recommend that you look at your state requirements. Mama to mama, my first thought is that I would use, if I was going to do that in the fall, then I would probably use From Adam to Us with that span. But I say that knowing that you might be in a state, like when we were homeschooling in Tennessee, the state required that if you gave a high school credit for something, you had to use a curriculum that was specifically designed for high school. So I don't want to put you in a bad position in your state because we believe it is very important to obey the laws of your state as far as requirements are concerned. So that is something you're going to have to find out and decide. But from an educational point of view, without regard to those requirements, then if I were in that situation and I was only going to use one, then I would use From Adam to Us, I believe, in that situation. And I would, because it's in the middle, and for the younger students, younger than 5th grade, I would probably only have them listen to it read aloud, participate in the family activity, and perhaps listen to the literature read aloud. I would not have them do a whole lot of the other things because I would like to see them do it again when they're in grade 5, 6, 7, or 8, in the years it's really designed for. And then for the 9th grader, I would add more, I would make the writing assignments longer. I would add more literature to read. I just had a mom this week call our office and talk about this very issue, but her students were twins who were in the 8th grade and one child who was in the 9th grade, and she was pretty sure that she only had to have 3 social studies credits. So her plan was to do From Adam to Us this year, with all 3 of her students, and then use our high school curriculum for her current 9th grader in 10th, 11th, and 12th, and use that for counting the credits. So it just, I can't give an answer to that for everybody that's just a blanket answer that'll work in every situation. And so what my little caveat is, I'm telling you mom to mom, I wouldn't hesitate to do it, but don't tell me your child didn't get to MIT because I said this, because I am not giving that kind of advice here. I'm just saying it could be a wonderful homeschooling experience for all those children to do that together. But you have to keep in mind what your laws are. So I guess we should wrap up. I'll just say quickly that our Uncle Sam and You, Ray has told you some about it. I have read you part of it, a small section that shows about how we value people. To us, Uncle Sam and You is our attempt to help students in grades 5, 6, 7, or 8 really appreciate our country and to see their role in it, and to appreciate every first responder, great political leader, grocery store stalker, truck driver, person who puts the stop sign up at the end of their road, that we help them understand what all those people do, and we help them appreciate it. We want to raise a generation of homeschoolers who know their role in civics and are not people who sit and watch news on television and shake their heads and say somebody ought to do something, but they're people who do something. And that's the purpose of Uncle Sam and You. So I know that Ray had some final thoughts that I would love for him to share with you, and then we probably should wrap this up. We've been going almost an hour.
Well, we want to encourage you to thank God every day for your children and for the privilege and the freedom you have to teach them and to point them toward the Lord. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it, and that includes the blessing of homeschooling your children. Thank you for joining us today. God bless you.